China and India now buckle under American pressure. America has imposed sanctions on the two top Russian oil firms, right? Rosneft and the other. But it has not sanctioned Russian oil per se. This is important to understand. Russian oil per se has not been sanctioned. What has been sanctioned are these two main entities. And because of this, Indian private companies like Reliance, etc., will be forced to stop buying Russian oil, which they were buying, they were refining, and they were selling at a good profit to the Europeans. And the Europeans were buying all this Russian oil through India, right? And all this moralizing be damned. This was going on merrily. So now, the Americans have blown up the Nord pipelines, Nord 1, Nord 2, etc., all blown up. And now the pressure on Europe has mounted, and now they are putting direct pressure on India. They feel it will buckle in more easily, and on China. They have threatened to put 100% tariffs. India is already under 50% tariffs. The only country in the world which is been put under this level of pressure. So will India buckle? Will China buckle? So far, there is no official statement from the government. There are speculations in the media that it would become difficult for Indian companies to buy this oil. The Russians have managed to circumvent most of the sanctions through their ghost fleet. Now what will they do next? Sink the ghost fleet and risk a direct conflict with Russia? I don't see that as happening. But the simple fact is that so far there is no official statement from India and China. The fact to note is that China and India have long-term contracts with Russia. They have long-term contracts with Russia. The ONGC, for example, has an $18 billion long-term contract with Russia. China has much more. But China has built pipelines, and it will get most of its oil through these pipelines, right? Most of its oil through this pipeline, and which it will continue, because no sanctions can prevent China from taking that oil via its own pipelines that it has constructed to link up with the Russian energy sources, right? India also has long-term contracts, and I don't think we can see them just being this thing. They will find ways to circumvent the latest sanctions, as ways have been found earlier. The Russian ghost fleet will play a major part, but that will continue. There is, however, the biggest catch in this whole oil war game. 3.5 to 4 million barrels a day of Russian oil is being exported, most of it currently being bought by China and India. If this $4.5 billion or even million barrels worth of oil, or even half of it, 2.5 million barrels, is made to disappear from the global market, sir, then the global price of oil will rise. It will touch $120, $130 a barrel, and that is going to hurt, first of all, the United States of America. Donald Trump has to face a midterm election just the next year, right? And Joe Biden was very averse to this kind of a scenario, and that is why he had turned and looked the other way when India and China continued to buy Russian oil, because he was very clear. It was very clear to all the experts that if you make Russian oil disappear, sir, there will be costs and consequences for the global economy. Certainly, India won't be without oil, because we can always increase the purchases we are doing, oil that we are buying from Africa, Latin America, Kuwait, etc. We can increase these. And there is even talk that we will buy some more American oil. But the simple point is, at what price? Will they give it to us at discounted prices? I am not sure. So, though India's oil supply will not stop, But the simple fact is that nobody in the world can afford the disappearance of Russian oil from the global oil markets. That will crash the global economy. And to a point, beyond a point, Donald Trump will be forced to reel in and relent. As of now, he is saying this is only till there is a temporary ceasefire. Russia is not doing a ceasefire in situ because it is winning. And the entire aim is to prevent the collapse of the Ukrainian military on the ground. Divert the world's attention with a whole lot of telematic displays of drone attacks on Russian oil refineries. Let me tell you one fact. Russia sells no refined oil. Those refineries are only for domestic. Russia sells only crude. Europe was buying the oil, crude oil that India bought from Russia. The Reliance refined it and sold it on to European countries, right? But Russia, their refining capacity, the Ukrainians are trying to hit with their drone strikes. Firstly, about 90% of those drones get shot down. So the damage they inflict is largely for the TV cameras, right? To destroy a complete refinery would require 200 Tomahawk missiles. Let me tell you that. And the Americans have refused to give Tomahawk missiles to the Ukrainians. They don't have that many to spare, number one. So the simple fact is that 70% of Russia's oil refining capacity is in reserve. They haven't touched it because they don't need it. They don't need it. So if somebody thinks that Russia can be brought to its knees by destroying its oil refining capacity, by degrading its oil refining capacity, you need to take a walk to clear the cobwebs in your bloody head, right? So the entire Strammer MI6, insistence that we are winning the war, right? I think is delusional, self-delusional. It will cause deep amount of suffering, and actually the British and the Americans are now having strained relations on this particular aspect. They are not in agreement, and relations are getting strained either side of the Atlantic because of this British insistence that they are just winning the war. Like I said, it is delusional. It will cost Europe very heavily. Jai Bharat, Jai Hind.